let's talk about the peptide landscape. And we're just going to warn you guys right now, brace yourselves, because this landscape doesn't have that much logic to it. It's more just groupings that seem to have some correlation. So we'll start with the first one. We are going to start with budget peptide serums. So these are serums that are very affordable, but are blends of peptides. And that's really it. They're usually in this like aqueous serum.
Yeah, and I will say Victoria had a lot of thoughts about how to organize these landscape. And we talked about skin concern, we talked about, like how do we compare maybe two products at a time? And the answer is none of them work. So we are like, you know what, whatever. Let's just go off of price category. What are some products that's worth talking about in each of these categories? When we're talking about low cost peptide products, we have to talk about the Ordinary. Their multi-peptide serum is probably a lot of people's first foray into this category. You may or may not already have some peptides swimming around in your routine, but this is one of those products that just touts, we have peptide, we have lots of peptides, and it is such a low, compared to a lot of really fancy peptide products, it's a low commitment level. So I think most people have actually probably tried this at least once.
I'll tell you right now, it has a blend of several peptides. Some of the callouts is acetohexapeptide 8. That's one of the main ones, pretty much in conjunction with like Matrixyl, in terms of, their skin benefits are also around reducing wrinkles. They also have a couple other ones, pentapeptide 18. All that to say, this is just a big blend of peptides plus hyaluronic acid. I think some of the concern I have with these, and it's honestly not a lot. I do agree. It's like, if you want to dabble in peptides, this is probably the realm that everyone's going to start in, is just that the combination of these peptides and peptides in general, the amount that you would need to see benefit is not insignificant. And so with all of these, I just feel like, we're really looking at almost like the cocktail effect of everything. However, I just think, that's probably, if I were to nitpick here, that would be the thing to keep in mind. But otherwise, I think this is that classic serum that's very affordable. And I did want to call out that the Ordinary does have this blend plus a copper peptide for $5 more. If you want to know which one you should choose, the thing I would probably go off of is that the multipeptide serum does have a little bit of clinical data where they do mention that they did see significant benefits in skin smoothing, firmness, and wrinkles. It's a very general claim. So that's the one thing where I was like, just keep that in mind. But it does have some sort of data, whereas the copper peptide one, I didn't see all that much there. Yeah. And I guess, Gloria, how do you feel about copper peptides knowing what we know?
I think that's one subject. That's another one of those things that I think has come back into style because we're starting to see more questions about it again.
Yeah.
And that's one I'm just like trying to pretend I don't see the questions because I don't love it. It's a very, very, very fussy ingredient. You'll hear about some talks about it maybe not compatible with ascorbic acid. I mean, from a formula perspective, there's a long list of things that you cannot make this with, and then you should not make it above pH of Blay, below pH of Blay, and then it should not be used in conjunction with this list of common skincare ingredients. It's just, and for what it does, for the data that I'm able to see, I don't know if it justifies that much workaround to make it work. That's ultimately how I feel about it.
I also have to say that, the level of mystery, it's like, even in the supplier data, going from different ingredient suppliers, their suggestions around formulation are also different. So that also bothers me, is like why one supplier will say, don't formulate this laundry list of stuff with copper peptide, and another one, we've definitely encountered those that are also like, I don't know, just do what you want with it.
Yeah, so
just
stable, much
dump it in
stable.
whatever, and then, it has such a long history, but the data is just so wishy-washy. And it's probably because of this. It's probably because of this sensitivity and this lack of understanding around how to handle this molecule. So yeah, I agree with you. I think it's always a kind of we're like, don't know what to say about copper peptide.
Yeah, so let us know what you think of these products, if they work for you. We do have, actually, I did want to mention real fast that if you're curious about these peptide, I guess, these trademark names around these peptide blends that, say, the Ordinary called out the Matrixyl and Matrixyl synth and all of that stuff. A lot of them are produced by the supplier Sederma, and Timeless is another brand that has
Mm.
like budget products that feature usually one of these like Star Sederma actives. Also, kind of a budget friendly place to start trying out peptides in your routine.
Yeah, I should mention they do have two products. They have a Matrixyl serum and they have a Matrixyl synth serum. So they don't do blends. And
They do a combination,
for
yeah.
yeah, and for 1 ml, you're definitely getting recommended the target concentration amount. The price point is a bit similar. It's about $30. So agree with Gloria. That's a good point to definitely worth considering there. We should mention this product. It's probably going to be something you're going to compare it to when you're deciding between budget-friendly peptide serums. The cost for CosRx is $25 for 150 ml. It's actually even cheaper. They also do a blend where they have a couple shared similar peptides. They have the acetohexapeptide 8, which I mentioned before for fine lines and wrinkles. But they also have the dipeptide diaminobutyryl benzolamide diacetate. And this one, the reason why they use it is because this is actually one of those neurotransmitter signaling peptides where it's actually trying to prevent your muscles from contracting and creating those expression lines. This is kind of a popular one in a lot of peptide claims where you'll see lingo like before you get Botox, so just something I thought I'd point out. But other than that, the peptide blends is slightly different. Their claims.
Yes, is long and vast, and I feel like covers everything we talk or tries to cover almost everything we talked about in part one. This is
Yeah.
definitely a product that's very explicitly placed as a catch-all serum or
Mm-hmm.
catch-all product. I feel like it's almost positioned more as an essence or toner type of first step product.
Yes.
So first of all, they did a consumer perception to talk about the moisturizing aspect of the product. They said 100%. I'm picking and choosing a couple of these bids. They said that 100% agreed. So this is consumer perception. A pleasant moisture sensation was experienced, and I was like, I'm not someone that gets eked out with the word moist or moisture, but that was a very weird way of using that statement. But
Pleasant
okay.
moisture is a phrase.
Yes, it is a choice. And they have this really ballsy chart that we're gonna put up that has all these stats that says plus 162.5% hydration, plus 76.42 skin texture, which I don't think they mean increase in skin texture. I think they mean
Yeah.
improve skin texture. Plus 22% skin density, which is a very not super kosher claim to be making here. Radiance plus 24%, clarity up 40%, brightness up 38%. It's definitely a lot.
Yeah. And they have a couple slides that are also kind of like, it's weird. It's like, yeah, we want more testing, but there's something off that's like a little too aggressive in my taste where for me where they actually show like penetration and improvement underneath the skin.
Yeah.
And I don't know, Gloria, because I almost feel like these are two very polarizing products because
Mhm.
The Ordinary actually doesn't have that many claims, but then CosRx has like a lot of claims. Which one makes you feel more comfortable, Gloria?
Honestly, the CosRx one, it's probably a product I would say if you're interested in peptides, I think can be worth trying. It's budget friendly. It's got blends of pretty interesting peptides. But I think this is one where even me, I have a hard time telling you what this product is good for, right?
Mm,
So first of all, hydration, they did the claims. I don't love this type of imaging. We'll put the image up. They have the before after hydration increase after 4 weeks. This is not a super common way of testing for
yeah,
hydration. So I don't really know how to place it compared to
yeah.
hydration actives. So right off the bat, I would say, okay, forget about the hydration claim. I would not replace any of my hydrating serums,
Mm,
any of those products with this. So that's right off the bat. The second claim I wouldn't take seriously and replace is the skin brightening and radiance claims. So if you have a very regimented hyperpigmentation routine, I'm gonna put the before after up. There are pictures that we squint at, and then there are pictures where like, what? Like,
yeah.
Yeah.
Not the greatest photo. Not the greatest. Also, it feels like it undermines like the science, like high-tech imagery that they tried to use. So yeah, I totally agree. This is I would probably not really take this claim too seriously.
Yeah.
And I think the other thing, a good thing you brought up, Gloria, is really just it's important to manage expectations here. I
Mhm.
think with, the price point, it's definitely worth trying, but also know that we are not expecting miracles with this being added to your routine, despite all of these numbers and images that are being thrown at us.
The anti-aging aspect of the claim, I also wouldn't take too seriously. They show this imaging of it's highlighted in green to show increase in skin density over time, which
Mm.
can be really compelling. Not gonna go into the legalities of the claims, but there's no with all this before after pictures they throw at you on other claims, anti-aging not having a regular skin before and after to me says a little bit more about the level of
Mm.
efficacy you can expect. It could be helpful, but it's probably not going to be, say, visually correcting, is my expectation.
Right.
Where they don't claim a lot of, but I think might actually be kind of interesting is anything oily skin in general. They have a slide on reducing blackheads, whiteheads, excess sebum, and oily skin. To me, the images themselves, I don't really know what to make of these, but sebum is very difficult to tackle in general. So a decrease in say 30% excess sebum, not super sure of their methodology, but I still think for those of you that have oily skin and honestly, there's just very few products out there that have any level of clinical data on
Mm.
reducing sebum excess production. I would say, hey, this might not be a bad product to try out. So I feel like I just tossed probably 5 out of their 6 claims under the bus. But yes, that's who I recommend this product for.
Well, I think this might just be a general theme of peptides in general, and you might feel this way like as we go through some of the formulas. It's like these products, they should do something. Like
Mhm.
what that something is, how much of that something that benefit will be, all question marks. But I think that you'll see as we go through the products and the formulation, I feel like the thought behind it is like, it's got to have a benefit, right? And I think that's the same with this product is like, it's cheap enough. It could be helpful. How helpful it is, you won't know till you try it. So
Yeah,
yeah.
but I will say, even though I kind of scrutinize all their claims and their clinical pictures, they at least did a clinical, which still
True.
beats a lot of products out there.
A lot of peptide products too.
Yes.
I mean, yeah, totally agree. So that's the general comparison for budget peptide serums. I want to be clear. I do think these two products are probably one of the better candidates of
Yeah.
affordable peptides out there. There are more, but we think that, in terms of the blends they use, there are a couple that are better established. And in terms of insurance policy, we do feel like these two are definitely worth considering. Let's move on. So we have a second category, and this one we're not going to spend too much time on, but we found that there are a lot of products where they'll pair peptides with gold standard actives. And probably the main category is retinoids.
Mhm.
So, for example, we did this with our double play because it makes a lot of sense in tackling skin concerns like wrinkles. There's also shout out to Educated Mess. They just launched their product Freeze Frame. That one is actually paired with resveratrol in focusing on anti-aging concerns as well. There are a couple other products out there that do the same. Obviously, we like this strategy because I think it showcases our general feeling around peptides and that they are a great secondary active to some of the main actives out there. And in terms of the final category, this
Mhm.
is where I feel like my brain just like gave up, but then also felt like so many fell into this, where it's like, let's just dump every active we know, including peptides, into a product and leave it at that. Yeah,
So I find these products really kind of annoying to decode because
yeah.
there's a lot, and then I swear these products also dump amino acids, like individual amino acids in the product,
Hmm.
so you have a really long list of ingredients, and they sound really cool, like blah 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 peptides, alanine, valine, threonine, da 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 da, pa. We have all these things. I'm just like, ah.
Yeah, exactly. It is such a pain for us, and a lot of times why we just can't speak to it. And the worst part is a lot of these don't come with testing, which is like,
Hmm.
why? Like, there's literally no takeaway. They're just like, oh, well, I put all these things in there. It's got to do something. So we don't need to test. Yeah.
You know what's funny is like,
Hmm.
sorry, really, really, really early on in our Chemist Confessions journey, we made a joke post on Thanksgiving that, for your leftover turkey, you can just put it on your face to give yourself a protein mask and it can brighten and hydrate. I feel like these stuff might as well be a turkey mask. Just proteins and amino acids, peptides, da, da,
Yeah.
da, da.
Yeah. Yeah. So hot take, Chemist Confessions think some of these peptide products equate to putting turkey on your face, I guess. But despite our poo-pooing, let's quickly walk through this. I did want to emphasize why we find this so difficult is because different peptides provide different benefits. And
Yes.
I'll put up a review paper's really great table where they actually broke down some of these peptides and the data behind it, and we'll
So
highlight the efficacy. Yeah, it's a thankless job. It's definitely a lot of work, but you'll just see from these 3 or 4 peptides listed here, and there's more in this chart. Some of them fight wrinkles. Some of
mhm,
them improve skin texture. Other ones not listed here are provide brightening properties. Not everyone provides the same level of benefits. And so my strategy here and recommendation would be if you are trying to shop in this realm or do happen to be intrigued by some of these products, shop by the skin concern that you're looking to
mhm.
target and shop for products with clinical testing because you'll actually find that the claims that are there are actually quite specific. And
Mhm.
so, for example, Drunk Elephant's Protini is probably a longtime peptide product now. This is their clinical testing data for their product. They show 96% improvement in skin tone, radiance, luminosity, 93% improvement in skin texture, 90%. Oh, sorry, I say this as an improvement, but it's actually the amount of subjects that showed improvement. So it's
Mm.
90% of subjects showed improvement in skin hydration. So if you are looking for things that are more in this like wrinkle fighting realm, or let's say lifting, plumping, this aspect, it doesn't really speak to that in this product. And that's where I would be like, maybe this is not the product for you. So hopefully that's a good example of what I'm trying to show here is like the claim is probably your best indicator of what peptide product to pick. Does that make sense, Gloria?
Hold on. Yes, yes, it does. And I also think that, yeah, I know. Even we are like getting caught up in all this. Like, it's honestly, this is literally the skincare category that's like word soup. It's just claims
Yeah.
and words and soup. And I also think what's funny is that Protini, I think, has at this point built enough recognition that there is a perception of what it does. And I am
Mm.
not 100% sure if that perception matches the claims, right? It
Hmm.
feels like, oh, it's a peptide cream, so it's anti-aging. But you look at the claims, it's like, huh, like I don't know if that's what it does.
Actually, it's funny you brought that up. Crap. I really wanted to show you. Oh man, I wanted to show you their next claims image that I feel
Uh-huh.
like you would get a kick out of. I found this interesting because this kind of
Uh-huh.
covers the traditional expectation of peptides.
Mm-hmm.
In this marketing image that that Drunk Elephant shows, it says visible reduction in fine lines and improvement in skin firmness and radiance.
Mm-hmm.
And they show a before picture and an after 4 weeks picture. But if you look at the tiny print below, it
Mm-hmm.
says results when using a routine with Umbra Sheer, their best number 9, C Firma Fresh, TLC Framboos, and virgin marula oil. I think that's in conjunction with their Protini product. But yeah, I just found that kind of fascinating. It's like not
Oh,
helpful.
yeah. So, I mean, 4 weeks is a very aggressive timeline. If you're starting new on actives, having vitamin C, glycolic acid, and sunscreen can
Yeah.
definitely make a big difference to your skin quality in general. Yeah, I don't know what I mean. Protini could have brought something to the table, but do I know what it is? I can't tell you.
Yeah. Exactly. So we felt like this was a good example of this category. It's not to say that Protini doesn't work. It's just a matter of, just know what you're looking for and what you want to achieve with peptides. And that will
Right.
probably help you kind of figure out these active soups that Gloria claims. So that's it for the meat. Hopefully, we've kind of given you 3 categories of peptide products to look for. Here's the tough part. As chemists, decoding based on the inky name of a peptide is not helpful to us.
Okay, Victoria and I got our start where we kind of decode ingredient list, highlighted relevant information on ingredient list. This is a category where not only should you not do it as a consumer, we as chemists don't really do that either because the ingredient name of it tells you very little
Yeah.
about the peptide. When chemists talk about peptides, we actually use the trade name a lot. And this is where I can probably write a mini novel of why it's just such a mess, right? So for a blend like Matrixyl, it caught a lot of buzz. It's a long proven peptide blend that's probably one of the most famous one. That Matrixyl as a name starts to mean something. So so this is what I mean by chemists communicate in these trait names. So when we talk about the different peptides, when we're formulating, we're all referring to different trait names of things we're looking at. But unless it's as famous as a Matrixyl, if a product just throws a peptide trade name out there, it still doesn't mean anything for the consumer. So I totally understand the frustration here because you're kind of caught in a no man's land where you're like, it says it has peptides. I don't know which peptide. And then you maybe message someone or you ask, hey, is SH a legal peptide? Good. We're like, well, it could be. It depends on the source. We can't tell you just based on ingredient list either. So all in all, this is, I guess, the main takeaway here is you are right. There is not a lot of logic here. When you're shopping, this is why we put so much weight on clinical data, but even then, it's kind of sparse and hard to come by. We should mention that probably one of the most helpful way to think about this is when you're thinking about adding to peptides, even though it can do everything in skincare, sky's the limit in terms of what it can tackle. We would say it's probably more worthy, like based on what we know, based on all the background data we see on different suppliers that have these different peptide blends, we'll say anti-aging is actually still the main arena where interesting
Mm.
data comes from. So lifting, firming, wrinkles, we wouldn't go out of our way to say, hey, this should replace your retinol, even though once in a
Hmm.
while we'll see some very impressive data. But in terms of anti-aging, it can definitely be um, a really important add to a routine. Let's say to spice up your retinol to kind of add that extra layer to it. All the other concerns that you associated with, we'll say soothing is one that may have interesting data. um, to me personally, I think hyperpigmentation is where you really shouldn't consider. You shouldn't get peptides for hyperpigmentation. Just because the data there's some data, but how does it compare to more traditional ones like say azelaic acid, glycolic acid? Not that impressive relatively.